Hi, this is True News, where we give you the news behind the news. At number 1, TCN workers have protested the sack of Mr. Usman Guru Mohammed as the managing director of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. The protesting workers who crippled operations at TCN headquarters in Abuja and Osogbo argued that Mohammed's passion for the development and growth of the sector was second to none in recent times. The minister claimed that the federal government has undertaken a major reorganization at TCN with the replacement of the managing director Usman Guru Mohammed with Sule Abdulaziz. Now, most insiders know that the reorganization is just a smokescreen, as the minister had been bent on removing Mohammed for a long time. The former MD is known to be an incorruptible protege of Akinwumi Adesina, the president of the African Development Bank. It was Adesina who recommended him for the top job at TCN. The now dismissed TCN boss had always ruffled feathers with his no-nonsense approach to administration and a blatant refusal to be an ass-kisser. Mohammed will likely join his mentor at AFDB in no time, while the Nigerian power sector continues on its downward spiral. On the COVID-19 front, the federal government has announced that it will only reopen the nation's economy fully when it is able to strike a balance between safety and economic recommendations. Officials of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 made this disclosure on Tuesday when it addressed the press. It also threw some light on the whereabouts of the Chinese doctors who controversially flew into Nigeria last month. The committee also lamented the growing number of casualties with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic, disclosing that many of those who died recently, apart from having underlying illnesses, had embarked on some form of self-medication or home care. Story. It is apparent that the Presidential Task Force is confused. How can they lament the growing number of casualties when they open the economy without as much issuing operating guidelines to the public, other than saying wear a mask and observe social distance? It is quite unfortunate. Who tells the hairdresser how to operate safely? Who tells the bakers how to operate safely? Even doctors and primary healthcare providers have no clear-cut operating guidelines, and as such, they mostly turn back patients who might not even be infected with the coronavirus. It is now a case of every man for himself and God for us all. In our third news item of this broadcast, the Senate yesterday asked President Muhammadu Buhari to immediately deploy the military to Zamfara, Kaduna, Niger, and Sokoto states to flush out bandits currently terrorizing the states. The call came against the backdrop of last week's order by the president that the military be deployed to Katsina State for the same reason. The Senate's decision followed the alarm raised by the chairman of the Committee on National Security and Intelligence, Ibrahim Gobir, that over 300 people have been killed or kidnapped in his senatorial district over the last 3 months. Gobir also told his colleagues that his constituents now run to soldiers for protection. He equally alleged that the military men often fail to respond to distress calls when the bandits strike or come after the deed had been done. What I don't understand is why the president has to be the one to order the military to his home state, Katsina. Does the military not know their job? Are the bandits only operating in Katsina? Has the president finally admitted the failure of the Nigerian police? A simple Google search would tell you how many times the president has given similar orders in the past 5 years. Has there been any improvement? Your guess is as good as mine. Moving on, the Secretary to the Delta State Government, SSG, Mr. Chiedu Ebie, yesterday announced that the state government will soon set up a joint security task force as part of its efforts to tackle the growing insecurity occasioned by the incessant kidnappings, killings, and maiming of Deltans by suspected herdsmen. This came about after several farmers fled their farms in Ibusa, Oshimili local government area of the state, due to attacks by the herdsmen. Delta, like other states in the south and middle belt, is under constant assault by people believed to be Fulani herdsmen. The state government and people seem helpless in the face of violent attacks from these herdsmen, who appear to be an occupying army. Most people believe that since they are the president's kinsmen, the police find it difficult to challenge them or do anything about them. Roots TV has consistently called for the reposting of all divisional police officers, better known as DPOs, to their local governments of origin, as a way of instilling confidence in the people who no longer trust the police to protect them. Finally, on today's edition of True News, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that millions of people could be pushed into extreme poverty in Africa due to the coronavirus pandemic and called for global solidarity with the continent. In quote, "The pandemic threatens Africa's progress. It will aggravate long-standing inequalities and heighten hunger, malnutrition, and vulnerability to disease," Guterres said in a statement accompanying a UN study with recommendations for the African continent. Among his recommendations, Guterres urged international action to strengthen Africa's health systems, maintain food supplies, and avoid financial crisis. It is also necessary, he added, to support education, protect jobs, support households, and keep businesses afloat. You will recall that the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, had promised billions of naira to help cushion the effects of COVID-19 on the economy, but just like the so-called palliatives from the government, it seems to have entered voicemail. The whole process appears to be shrouded in secrecy. Millions have been thrown into unemployment in the last 2 months. While the government touts all sorts of solutions, we are yet to see anything on ground. I want to suggest a good starting point. Make our farms safe. Millions of Nigerians are ready to farm today. That's all for today. Please drop a comment in the comment section below and follow us on all our social media platforms at Roots TV Nigeria.